My name is Eric Jolly, and I am the president and CEO of St. Paul and Minnesota Foundation. Because we're a community foundation, we have the good fortune of partnering with both nonprofits and donors throughout the state of Minnesota. These relationships give us a front row seat to tremendous acts of generosity and impact, of courage, compassion, love. And each day, especially during these challenging times in all corners of our state, from our smallest towns to our largest cities, people are working together to create an equitable, just, and vibrant Minnesota where all communities and people thrive. In this present moment, we'd like to share these stories with you. Joining me today in this present moment is Sondra Samuels. She is the president and CEO of the Northside Achievement Zone. Sondra, welcome to this present moment.
Thank you, Eric. Thanks for having me.
Sondra, you are the president and CEO of the Northside Achievement Zone, popularly known in the community as NAZ. Can you tell us a little about what NAZ does?
Yes, absolutely. So NAZ is a two-generation approach to working with parents and children to ending multi-generational poverty, focused on whole family supports and the education of their children. To do this, we have 30 partners: career, housing, health, early childhood, K through 12, after school, summer, colleges, and then we do a whole host of parenting education classes. Today we have about close to 1,000 families and 2,200 scholars. We call all of our babies scholars, 0 to 18. And the idea is to give low-income children the supports that middle class and upper class kids take for granted, and to give their parents the support that those of us who are middle class take for granted too. And so it's a collaborative movement, and we've been seeing amazing outcomes.
It's been a whirlwind of changing events in our community. How have these events impacted the community work you do?
Yeah. So in so many different ways, Eric and I, we were talking initially around this being, what has been the impact in terms of Rona, which I call COVID-19. And that seems like a lifetime away, just in terms of the angst of the environment and how pregnant our current atmosphere is in the city, right? And the anxiety, and all starting with Rona, by the way. But then the murder of George Floyd, which we know is a string of murders and at the hands of police officers. And then on top of that is the seismic increase in violence within the community. I live in North Minneapolis. I live, I work, I eat, I play here. I've raised my children here. I have a 17-year-old African-American young man who looks very African-American living with us right now. And I just found out about 2 hours ago that a 17-year-old was murdered a couple of blocks from us, sitting in a car, and not by the police. And I had to say to Marcus, who was on his way out today with his mask on, I just had to say, Marcus, be safe. So, he worries about both the police and other young men who look like him, who are experiencing some deep hopelessness, which leads to, some of the violence that we see. And it's been off the chain. Death has been very real here for us on many levels. And so when I say us, I'm talking about the Northside community.
When you speak of hopelessness, we know that can only lead us down a pathway of more and more sorrow.
Yep.
Where do you keep going? Where do you see hope in your community that makes you want to stay there and lift it up again?
So at NAZ, we have a corny saying that we feel as though we're hope dealers. That African proverb, when you unite spider webs, you can tie up a lion. And for us, we've been tying up a lion of hopelessness because we have each other and we understand our mutuality, our interdependence. And I tell you, this crisis situation has given me a lot of hope. And I would say that it's the families, Eric. They're not giving up. They're everything had to go virtual, right? So they're taking parenting education classes virtually. right? Those who were looking for jobs are taking online training courses, right? Those who are looking for housing are still working with our housing partners remotely. You know, they're coming to different events that happen over North. They're saying thank you for the partnership. I mean, like, we're grateful for them, they're grateful for us, and they're figuring out creative ways of doing and being at home with their children. And I keep hearing parents talk about things they're learning about their children, you know, and this is all in the midst of what happened to our world. They're being so creative and they're leaning into the moment.
That's wonderful. I'm aware that the Northside Achievement Zone received initial funding from the Minnesota Disaster Recovery Fund. Can you tell us, how did that help your community? What did you do with that opportunity?
Yeah, there were two things that we did right away and are still engaged in. But one is our families needed cash. They needed relief right away. We actually gave $100 gift cards and $200 gift cards. We did two different distributions of that so that they could get what they need, the diapers and the formula and gas and Visa gift cards. And we'll continue to do that. Also, rent relief. So, you know, everybody thinks that families are not going to have to pay rent. There's a moratorium. There's not a forgiveness. So we're doing significant rent relief. And then it's a bunch of how do we support the parents through getting masks out there, getting being part of Mask Up Minneapolis to stop the spread. We paid for coping kits. One of our social emotional coaches who works at one of our partner schools put together these great kits to go home to families that are all social emotional activities. So we got a few hundred of those created and sent to our parents and our families. So a lot of things of that nature. And Eric, we're really focused on not simply short-term gains. Like, the fear is that we'll have short-term gains and long-term losses. And so a big thing that we've been doing is working not just in this community, but we've been working across the state with partners who are part of something we call Education Partnership Coalition in like 6 other cities in greater Minnesota. And we've been working collectively to really inform policymakers around what's needed right now on the ground, around how do we meet the educational, emotional, and economic needs of the people that live in our communities who need it most.
What do you see as the hope we need to develop going forward?
So, you know, a lot of people are in pain. I would say we're in not just in our city or our state or our country, but the world. There's a collective moaning, but the world has its eyes on Minneapolis right now, right? And we can actually lead in terms of the world, in healing, in racial justice, in mutuality, you know, in respect. But what I know, Eric, and this is what I want to help lead myself, is if we don't transform our pain, and this is collective, I'm not just talking about Black folks. If we don't transform our pain, we will transmit it. And we will transmit it to our neighbors, you know, to our children, to our coworkers, right? And so we are at this place where I think those of us who are in leadership position, we have to be aggressively about our own healing, aggressively about it, while we at the same time, as wounded healers, help to nurture, to support the people that we are leading and working with in their own healing. And I think that this foundationally is what is going to transform our community.
How can people help support your work in the community?
Yeah, so NAS has, you know, we have about 30 partners that we work with, Eric, and they all are doing amazing things, because our goal is not just the NAS families who work with our coaches. It's about, for us, the Northside. We're looking for population level outcomes. And so, you know, supporting, if they went to our website, supporting any one of our anchor partners would be tremendous, because we're doing this intersectionality in terms of our work together. It's like finding your place of passion, leaning in as never before, And what can you do in those spaces with this newfound understanding of how inequitable Minnesota has been, continues to be, and the death of George Floyd and what we all witnessed, we have to understand that that is the tip of the iceberg. It is not the iceberg. And understanding that and leaning in our areas of influence, Eric, as well. And if you're a policymaker, good googa mugga, there's some work to be done. You know, and listening to those voices. My daddy used to always say good googa mugga. And but listening to the voices that have historically not been listened to.
Thank you. I love the way you tell your stories. My mother used to say we have to smile to keep from crying.
Amen.
And you find that smile to keep us moving forward. Sondra Samuels, President and CEO of the Northside Achievement Zone, thank you for your passion. Thank you for your caring and the generosity of your time. Sondra, thank you for joining us in this present moment.
Oh, you are so welcome, Eric. Thank you. It was an honor to be here.